Brothers fight, but this ain't no fight. This was a brawl. Welcome back to my YouTube channel where we talk about comic books, and this is Arcade Kings, issue 4, Brothers Fight. Our story begins with Ken, young Ken to be exact. You see, he was in this big ass mansion alone, and he stumbled onto a lab. This is the lab where he found out the truth. Himself and his brother were nothing more than samples, guinea pigs, used for experimentation. And this was a secret he could not keep to himself, because his brother had started to mutate, and he couldn't live with himself without sharing. So that night, he called his brother and showed him what he saw. Back in the present, though, he sees the result. His brother was no longer his brother. He looked different. Joe was happy to see his bro, but his brother was confused. Why do you look like that? Then he realized, bruh, we ain't cool. What the hell do you want? He just clarifies, I'm here to make things right. But Ken didn't take that lightly. Make things right here, right now. Joe was confused. Why are you getting all hostile? And Ken screamed, how did you even find me? Joe reveals that it was Minerva that gave him the address. And Ken just walked away like, bruh, you ain't real. Minerva and her goons failed, so Max sent his golden boy. Leave. I am not selling. And Joe was confused. I don't want to buy nothing from you. I came to see you, bro. Chill. Ken was about to crash out until he turned around and saw Joe's face. All Joe could say was, you're right. He used me. After you told me what you discovered, I did a bit of investigation on my own, and I found out we were lab rats. He made us think we were his sons, made us train, only to hide the fact that he was experimenting on us. I'm sorry. Even with that, Ken said, sorry? You can't even look me in the eye. You are a coward, self-centered prick. You abandoned me for a dream, for him. As much as you hate the man, you are just like him, Joe. And that triggered Joe like, come on, who the hell do you think you're talking to? I'm still your elder brother. But Ken was already walking away, forcing Joe, with heightened emotion, to disrespect his brother, calling him a brat. But he is no longer a brat. Who the hell do you think you're talking to? He clocked Joe in the jaw, on his ass quickly, with tears in his eyes because that punch was personal. Joe couldn't believe it, but Joe was still Joe. You don't punch me and get away with it. He speared his brother so hard, they leapt through the building, slamming each other on the ground hard. And with that, they knew it was up. They went for the kill, both striking each other with all of their strengths. Ken was strong, but Joe was still Joe. He had the technique down, delivering every blow with precision and skill. He was so good, he was having a conversation mid-fight, reminding Ken that, yeah, if you think you don't need me, show me, prove it right here, beat me down. And Ken was going to beat him down, because Joe was fighting for forgiveness, but Ken, he was fighting for revenge. You abandoned me. You are pathetic, Joe. But Joe didn't want to hear all of that. You don't know what it was like. You're too young to remember. I had to fight to feed you every day. He was all we had. We were supposed to be a team, but that triggered him. Team? You abandoned me. Launching at his brother, striking him. You got a home. You got taught how to fight. I was the spare, just a punching bag. I was abandoned by you, by him. He struck Joe over and over again. And from the rooftops, we see Minerva watching all this play out because her plan was working to perfection. Ken was on top, looking down on his brother. You were supposed to be there for me, but you weren't. I may be too young to remember, but what I remember was you leaving me on the streets. I was a child, and you did that to me. Your own blood. And now you're here? Nah, I don't need you. I never needed you. Joe said, of course you needed me. I'm your brother. But he said, nah, no more. In one final clash, they both used all of their strengths and double KO'd each other, both falling to the ground defeated. But one stood. Ken stood. Joe, you are a disappointment. Even with that, Joe was not willing to let it end. He said, I'm sorry, and put his pinky up like they used to do when they were kids, saying, I'm still your brother. But this time, I don't think that will work, because Ken already has a family, people who count on him. He said to his brother, leave. I'm done with you. I don't want to know what you got going on. I don't want to hear from you. Don't come back here. We're done. And just like that, he left, leaving his brother Joe to stew in his filth. This is where we see what truly happened that night. Joe was supposed to run away with his brother, and he was going to, till Max stopped him and promised him, if you leave, I'm going after your brother. Let him go. It is you I want. He has the same fire, yes, but your fire is already lit. Choose. And he chose to let his brother be free while he takes the weight of the world. He made that choice to protect his brother, but his brother doesn't know that. And Minerva didn't care because her plan worked. Now, Joe has lost hope. And as we know, hope is everything. Without hope, we fall into despair. And Joe fell into despair hard. He just gave up and said, okay, I'll come back with you. Even when he go back to the compound, everyone was waiting for him like, bruh, we are doing this now, so you don't have the opportunity to run away. But he didn't care. He said, whatever, I'm with it. Let's go. Max was so impressed with Minerva, he said, I'm sorry I doubted you. You were right. Your plan worked to perfection. And she said, of course, let's get this done. And they went straight to the lab because we kind of all figured out what was supposed to happen. Max was clearly dying. Joe had abundance of power. He was going to siphon Joe's power for himself. He was going to try to live while killing Joe in the process. But Joe didn't care. He lost hope. Telling the scientists, let's just get this over with quickly. His father, or rather his supposed father, Max, was happy, letting him know he was the perfect son. He's making him proud, but Joe didn't care. He said, shut the fuck up and do it now. And Max said, you heard the kid, turn on the machine. And they did as they were told. And just like that, they could feel, or rather Joe could feel, his life force being drained from him inch by inch. He was suffering. He was crying. But Max, he was having the opposite reaction, simply saying, Joe, my boy, you are perfect. On the console, the scientists could see that Joe and Max were not compatible. Max was dying. His body was too weak. They turned off the machine, but the deed was done. Max was reborn, stepping out of the smoke, looking like a goddamn behemoth. He said, the champ is here. Now find me a fight. I need to test out my new abilities. And yes, it's about to go crazy because he looks good.